Start transmission. 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting to you live from the Static Clan compound, you are now listening to the Jason Static Experience, a podcast from an award-winning nobody, noted raconteur, Renaissance man, a man with a sailor's mouth, but he has never sailed, and who likes to talk about a cornucopia of topics. This podcast is brought to you by www.jasonstatic.com, a place filled with all your pop culture antiques and collectible needs. And now your host, the one and only Jason Static. Welcome back, everybody. Jason Static with the next episode of the Jason Static Experience. And today I have a treat for you guys. Like I always say, I always have a treat for you guys. Today we have a 3-time NWA national champion, former tag team partner of beautiful Bobby Eaton. He's none other than the Golden Boy himself, the Golden Boy, Greg Anthony. My brother, how you doing, friend?
Pretty good, man. You doing all right?
I'm doing great, man. So for those who may not know you, even though they should know you, give a little bit of a rundown, of who the Golden Boy Greg Anthony is.
I seem to be the last of a dying breed. The last old school gunslinger, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
While everyone is jumping around and breaking their necks, I'm still trying to tell stories and cut promos.
Right.
So kind of one of those things where, I'm 39 years old. I've been doing this, my entire adult life. And just trying to stay in the sun a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to do this as long as I can and longevity, and trying to train the next generation of guys to come up. And so we have a business not 10 years from now, but 20, 30 years from now.
Right.
So.
Yes. So, you kind of got into a little bit of a thing that I talk a lot about for the most part. I mean, to my core group, and I see you through Facebook and other places talk to you about your core group of people that follow you and whatnot about how wrestling today is, for better or worse, high flying, people getting injured a lot, and you being the last of a dying breed of, just wanting to be, the storyteller. What do you think as a worker and you as a whole, just as a person, what do you think is the best course of action for wrestling?
Wrestling needs to get back to the basics.
Mm-hmm.
We're too busy trying to be like things. We're trying to be like comic books. We're trying to be like movies. We're trying to be like entertainment. And we need to get back to what made wrestling great to begin with, and that's being professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to be those things. Obviously, there's elements of all those things, but we don't have to try to cater to those fans. We need to cater to actual people that actually like professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And, professional wrestling, as a whole isn't as big as the movie industry, isn't as big as the music industry.
Right.
But it's much bigger than, the gymnastics industry or the bodybuilding industry and things like that. A lot of those things never sold out in Madison Square Garden.
Right.
We had our own niche. We had our very successful way of doing business, and for some reason we've gotten away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think guys need to go back in their history books and kind of see through the 70s and the 80s what made professional wrestling popular, what made it the staple of all these little towns across America.
Mm-hmm.
What made those things successful, and why do people still talk about the territories with such reverence today if that wasn't the way to do business?
Right.
You know what I mean? I think there's a perfect blueprint out there and not enough people are following.
Oh yeah. And that's something that you hear a lot from wrestling fans that they wish it was this way again, or why can't we go back to being like this certain point in time in wrestling, whether it be if you go as far back as the territory days, through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and the tail end of the 80s, and then you have some people that are that, and then you have some people nowadays say, go back to the way it was in the 90s and stuff like that. But you can't do that if we constantly keep going forward and pushing the envelope. Like, that's one thing. That's one detriment that I see in pro wrestling today is like everybody's trying to top the next big crazy thing, and all that essentially does is shorten the career of the guys that are working. There's an old tale, it's not really an old tale, but it's an old saying in wrestling. You only got so many bumps on your bump card, so once that card's hit, like there's no more for you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And like everyone praises NXT, and obviously, they've been very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, kind of successful. I don't know if they've actually ever turned a profit.
Right.
NXT's been very talked about, very at the forefront of what today's wrestling is.
Mm-hmm.
You look at a guy like Tommaso Ciampa, who's been there about 7 to 8 years, and he's had like 5 major surgeries.
Yeah.
In that time, shoulders and necks and this and that, knee. I think. I mean, it's just like you have to realize the correlation.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a match between Johnny Gargano and the Andrade kid,
mm-hmm.
and they were going, and they did this amazing. Gargano did this amazing thing in the corner. He ran in, gave Andrade this great enziguri to the face
mm-hmm.
in the corner. The crowd popped. I mean,
mm-hmm.
they blew up like, oh, that was amazing. But as soon as they did it, Gargano went and hit the ropes. And Andrade pretty much no-sold that kick and came out and clotheslined Gargano, and Gargano turned inside out.
Right.
Like, no one cared about the clothesline because they loved the kick, but you guys didn't let it breathe, and you guys didn't sell it,
mm-hmm.
and you end up killing yourself,
Yeah.
Movies, when they film movies, they film 3-4 hours, 8 hours, however many hours of material they have, and they have to get it down to an hour and a half.
Right.
To 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And in that 90 minutes, you have to make sure that everything means something in what you're doing. Same thing with a wrestling match. You want everything that you do to mean something, especially when you've got 10 minutes, or you've got 12 minutes, or 15. You want everything you do in that ring to mean something.
Oh, yeah.
They're just lessening themselves by not doing it.
What do you think? What do you think has been the root cause of this shift in mentality of the workers? Because ultimately that lays on the shoulders of the workers themselves. What do you think is the root cause of something like the root cause of that?
It's a variable thing, but one thing that really kind of got the ball rolling was when Vince Russo took over. He didn't take over, but when he was head writer for Raw.
Mm-hmm.
His mentality was that these 3-minute microwave matches.
Right.
So guys would go out there and they would try to fit in as much stuff as they could in 3 minutes. And even though those guys were trying to make it as psychology based as they could,
mm-hmm.
You've got 3 minutes on national television and you're trying to get your stuff in to make yourself look good.
Right.
So that was kind of the beginning of a lot of it. New Japan obviously being more available to the States.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of it too. A lot of the Northeast guys that just did the indie stuff and just like the cool moves,
mm-hmm.
And when WWE was on the skids almost and people were looking for alternatives to them, the indie guys, when they were doing the indies up in the Northeast and, and people were trying to find alternatives to WWE and TNA and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
These indie guys came out and they were just more concerned with the moves and this and that, and people started gearing themselves towards that, and that gained a little bit of steam because they were doing new and innovative things. It pushed
right.
Really, truly, it became where it wasn't about putting an ass every 18 inches anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was about how many views you can get on YouTube.
Right.
That was a detriment to it. In the territory days, you didn't do anything that you didn't think, well, they'll come back to see that next week. Well, now these guys aren't worried about getting paid because they're getting paid nothing.
Right.
And, they just want the glory and they just want the, to almost be like a superstar on YouTube and stuff like that. So I'm going to do the most outlandish, craziest thing I can think of and put it on YouTube and see how many, it almost becomes like a jackass mentality.
Right.
So, back in the territory days, you wanted, like I said, you wanted to get as many people in that arena as you could.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew the things that would work and wouldn't. If you dive off a balcony, okay,
yeah,
what are you going to do next? You have to know where you're going or how to draw that person to see not the move, but to see you. Like
right.
As a kid, I loved all the baby faces and hated all the heels.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I love Sting, and it was great that he did the Stinger Splash, and it was great that he did the Scorpion Deathlock.
Mm-hmm.
It was great to see those things, but it wasn't the move that was over. It was Sting that was over.
Yeah.
He could almost done anything
Oh, yeah.
in place of those things, and I still would have loved him.
Right.
You know, so, and that's what guys are losing themselves. They're putting so much emphasis on athleticism, so much emphasis on the move, that then themselves are not over. And all you have to do is take that move and put it to someone else, and it means the exact same.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I get what you're saying. You know, like it's almost like for the handful of people that I've talked to in the pro wrestling business on my show so far, I've made some analogies of like some of the biggest names in the business that you've ever heard of in the business. While they were good workers, you know, like physical workers, athletic workers, and stuff like that, they were 4 times as big when they developed more into a character, not so much a gimmick, but just, you know, character. They worked on their character. They had a story and a concept behind it, you know, something to keep people feeding into you and whatnot. And I think that's one of the things, like you said, is lost in wrestling nowadays. Is there's not enough character work. There's more athleticism, and guys can do, you know, some pretty amazing things when you look at it on the surface. But does it help the overall story of you as the worker and or the whole overarching story that you're trying to tell with inside that ring, in the match, or within the company that you work in?
Right. I mean, like you said, the gimmicks were, wrestling used to be a window to the world.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you had a cowboy, and you had an Indian, and you had a missing link, and you had a King Kong Bundy and a Kamala, and, you know, you had Ric Flair, and then you had a Hogan. You had all these different cavalcade of characters that you talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And none of them worked exactly the same, right? Like, the cowboy didn't wrestle exactly like the Indian. The Indian didn't wrestle exactly like the pretty boy. The pretty boy didn't wrestle exactly like the amateur wrestling standout.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everyone had their own thing. Nowadays, not only do we not have enough gimmicks, true gimmicks,
mm-hmm.
but even if they were a gimmick, when the bell rings, they all wrestle the same.
Yeah.
It's all going to be slap leg knee, slap leg super kick,
yeah,
slap leg forearm, slap leg headbutt. You understand? Like it's all,
mm-hmm.
it's just so dumbed down to the fact that, you know, it's so misrepresentation
yeah.
of what professional wrestling is supposed to
be. Yeah. So we got into it a little bit. What do you think? You just mentioned it. What do you think, as somebody that, you know, is obviously passionate about the business, as you are, what do you think what wrestling should be as a whole?
I think wrestling should be presented as much in reality as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Like, it's not that we're trying to convince everybody 100% of the time that professional wrestling is real. You understand?
Right.
But there still has to be that semblance of it. You understand? Like,
mm-hmm.
we can't hire Bill Cosby to be a family dad anymore.
Right.
Right? Because he's a rapist.
Right.
You know, it's not going to work. And I don't think anyone in their right mind would try that and
mm-hmm.
try to make money with it. Same thing with wrestling. If you're this big, larger than life heel that, you know, your goal is to make people think that you're going to rip this guy's head off, then I don't want to get on your Instagram and see you, you know, cuddling your puppy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or wearing a tutu in a woman's beauty review or something like that for your local community. I don't care. I want to believe, as much as anything, that you're evil, that you're this big brooding whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So what do we need to? We need to protect ourselves and protect the gimmicks as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Same
thing in the matches. You know, obviously let's not do anything that's overtly phony, like, you know, Joey Ryan in the dick flip.
Yeah.
Let's actually work stuff that's actually believable. You know
mm-hmm.
what I mean? Let's actually, if this is a spectator sport, unfortunately it hasn't been since the whole COVID-19 stuff, but you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It's still a spectator sport. More than likely, guys are going to be, you know, your crowd, your audience is going to be, you know, 15, 20 feet away from you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make them believe that clothesline you just threw took that guy's head off. Or you
mm-hmm.
punched that guy right in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's make everything, tighten everything up and make it believable.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you know, not kill each other.
Right.
You know, have it where it's not obviously two guys working together in a choreographed dance.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many times Cornette said it. There's no such thing as a perfect fight.
Oh yeah.
There needs to be a little ugly sometimes. It needs to be a little flub times where you try to pick someone up and they're not working with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to muscle them up, or it looks kind of daunting.
Yeah.
So we need to get back to that kind of basis where it's reality based.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I've talked to dozens and dozens of people, whether it be wrestling fans and wrestlers, over the years, about stuff like this, and that's one of the things that I've been saying for a long time. You just got to get back to. You essentially got to get back to the realism of what you're trying to portray. You are trying to portray a fight, and you got to make it look as real as you possibly can, but at the same time, not actually kill your opponent, which is the absolute reverse of what we're doing nowadays. Where essentially they're making things look somewhat real, but they're actually killing they're killing their opponents, and that's not a good thing, and it's not good. It's not good for the business because there's no longevity. There's no potential to put money into a person and try to build them up if they're going to be hurt all the time.
Yeah, and I've had this argument with guys that are bigger names in the business than I am. Their thought process on this is that they are superheroes come to life, and that's what they're doing. That's why they're selling less and doing more. It's because they're supposed to be, it's supposed to be superhero-like.
Mm-hmm.
And my argument to that is what they don't understand is I watch all the Marvel movies just like everyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
And the crux of the movie always hinges on when that superhero is down and out, and he's beat and he's selling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if they throw him 15 buildings. When he sells the last one and he's down, that's when everything comes. So, to me, the argument doesn't hold any weight.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to, like I said, we're trying to make people believe that are in attendance what we're doing.
Right.
And if you're saying, well, we're trying to be like superheroes, we're trying to be like these movies, well, you're not going to be able to replicate what they do in Iron Man 3 in wrestling.
Right.
You understand? Like, wrestling is its own unique form of entertainment that we have to abide by. And there are certain rules, one of which is gravity.
Yeah.
And certain realities of what it is. So you have to find ways to do that. And what I love / hate about the new school argument is they sit there and say, oh, wrestling can be anything now. It's art. It can be this. It can be that. I could be an alien. I could be this from, I could do all these different things. And you say to them, well, this is what I want. I want professional wrestling based in reality, sports based, 2 athletic guys going out there having a fight for a 3 count. That's what I want. And I go, oh, no one believes that. Well, it's like you just said, it could be anything.
Right.
So in your mind, if it can be anything, then my way works. However, I know it only truly works this way, and your way does not.
Right. I think to take their argument and just kind of to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit, like where you said, you made a reference to they could be an alien. Well, you can't. You can be an alien if that's the gimmick that you're playing, but you've got to. Because there's been weird characters throughout wrestling, throughout the history of wrestling. Especially when it came into the realm of, it started being on TV and type stuff like that. There's been some pretty weird characters over the course of professional wrestling. But what the new school guys don't understand is, while yes, you might be able to be that wild and outlandish character, you've got to work within the character and not make it essentially make it work within that realm of what professional wrestling is, not conform professional wrestling to the idea of what you think your gimmick is.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The way I always look at it, like with the alien thing, for instance, I can't remember the girl's name. She's on AEW, where she's supposedly from another planet.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, the problem with that is when the announcers go, yeah, she's from this planet, and they act like it's real. That's not how you present it.
Right.
If she thinks she's an alien, then your job is go, well, I'm not sure she's all there because she believes she's from the planet Nebula. Mm-hmm. And that's how you play it off as she's not all there. She's schizophrenic.
Yeah.
She's something of that character. Then she can be whatever she wants to be, right? Because that's what she actually believes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't all have to believe it.
Right.
Right? same things with the Galactians that Jim Cornette managed. It wasn't that they were from another planet; is that they thought they were from another.
Yeah.
And that made them just crazy enough to rip someone's head off.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and yeah, like you said, it's all about how you present it. In other words, like
nowadays, like if Al Snow came out today, they would have the head talking somehow.
Yeah.
Like they would have a voice for the head. They would, have it move its mouth somehow, maybe Robotronics or something like that. But like the gimmick was that he was Psycho and he heard the voices from this head, and everybody was like, this guy's Office Rocker.
Right.
That makes sense because we've all met someone like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's based in reality.
Yeah. No, man, I totally get what what you're saying is I think and we're pretty much in agreement. Like that's one of the things that I've believed for a long time too. Is like, whenever I was working, I think by the time that we met, I had just switched to, I just got changed up and started doing, heel work because I worked with Espinosa, and I think that's what he was a heel down in the company that me and you crossed paths in, and I think my phase into being a heel changed a little bit over time depending on where I was. Like in the main company that I worked in Missouri, I kind of switched into like a schizophrenic type, crazy dude, kind of like an Al Snow type guy. But what I didn't give everything to the promoter and to the announcers, the people that are sitting ringside, talking and whatnot. I didn't give them everything that I was doing, like one week I would come in and it'd be like, okay, this is where I'm from. Right. Even though last week it was different and they wouldn't understand it. So that would make them be like, well, we don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he really is going crazy type thing. So it made it believable that I was going crazy, which I kind of was, in real life. so, like it made it believable to the people that were there watching, and it made it believable for the people that were actually watching on the weekly TV show that we had at the time too.
Right.
Yeah,
it just has to be digestible. We're trying to present wrestling in reality, and you never want someone to go, well, that's bullshit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you never want to have that reaction. I went and saw Penn and Teller years ago in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
And Penn said something really poignant about, he was talking about magic, but it really pertains to wrestling as well. He said, when people go to a movie or a play, they are willing to check their reality at the door and be presented with the world that you're showing them.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to a magic show, and same thing when you go to a wrestling show, they go in there with a chip on their shoulder. They go in there with, oh, he's palming the card, or, oh, there's a mirror under that, or, they did this, that he didn't really hit him with that clothesline. Oh, they're actually friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone goes in there with that chip on their shoulder. So your objective is to pull the wool over their eyes for however long it is, whether it's, an hour wrestling program on television or, 2 hours in an arena or whatever it is.
Right.
Our job is to make them believe what they're seeing is what we are presenting. What we are presenting is an athletic contest between wrestlers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think there's anybody in the business today, whether it be for WWE, NXT, Japan, essentially any company out there, whether it be AEW or any of these companies, do you think there's any worker out there that's, besides yourself, that's presenting, wrestling the way that you would see in their matches?
Yeah, there's guys out there, and they do it in spurts, like, Orton and Edge. I wrote on Facebook this past week about it. Orton and Edge, between the ropes and posts was a great wrestling match. Was it the greatest wrestling match of all time?
Mm-hmm.
No, but it was still a great match nonetheless. But when they add sound effects, they add the crowd noise, and then they have the absurd camera angles that you cannot get in a wrestling match.
Right.
It hurts your suspension of disbelief.
Right.
But the work themselves that they did was old school. Same thing with when Cody and Dustin wrestled last year.
Oh, yeah.
that was an amazing old school match.
Yeah.
And everyone praised it as this amazing match. And for some reason, it's just unfathomable for them to think, hey, maybe they're on to something with it being the old school thing that we're talking about.
Right.
You know, so yeah, there's guys out there that definitely have the capability of doing this stuff, but it's not coming across. I'm not a big fan of Kevin Owens at all. Not because of his look or anything like that. I just think he's a nonchalant person, and him trying to sell matches, he never really sells the match. He sells himself as like this too cool for school kind of, whether he's heel or baby. He's too cool for school, and it's like, he doesn't make me want to see any of the matches.
Right.
That's a huge issue. Dusty's biggest thing was talking him into the building, right?
Right.
So, and then you got guys like Kenny Omega who are just they're so over the top cheesy with some of the stuff that they do that wrestling loses its realism about it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with like a Joey Ryan. I mean, how can you take that guy seriously? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah. What do you think of guys like an MJF?
Yeah, MJF, I like 85% of what MJF does. He's actually trying to be a heel. He's actually trying to be an old school heel. What I don't like is the unnecessary vulgarity of his language. I don't think you have to drop GD or say all the things he says to get actual heat.
Right.
So especially as a promoter, like we're a completely family friendly show. I want people to be able to bring their 7-year-old daughter or their 70-year-old grandmother to my show.
Right.
So we just don't do that.
Right.
The other thing I don't like is he does a lot of the old school heel facials and a lot of the old school stuff, but he does it so big sometimes that it does come that if he tried to do it in 1985, they would kick his ass for being too phony. But since we're in 2020, and no one else is doing it, it comes off as the greatest thing ever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he's doing it almost
Right.
right.
Yeah.
He's definitely a heel's heel for sure.
Yeah, and that's like I've told people I've talked to a bunch of people, fans of wrestling, fans, workers, and stuff like that. And I've told people that I go, in particular with the AEW in general, since it's the newest company out there, essentially, the newest, biggest named company out there. I think one of the big disservices that AEW is doing right now, just in my personal opinion, is they came in saying that they're going to be different than WWE. They're going to do this, and they're going to push the workers that deserve to be pushed, and da 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 da. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, man, like you do got a guy like MJF, who I feel could be a really good building block for a company. And like you could build, a heel. You could build him as the top heel in the company. But what happens is you don't do that. You kind of push him to the wayside a little bit, and then you bring in all the old WWE guys, and then they just kind of threw their. I guess essentially what I'm saying is like they threw their hands up with their guys, and they brought in a bunch of old WWE guys to further their show.
Yeah, it's just a big cluster
as
far as that goes. One, it's so many issues, but one major issue is that they started out saying that they were going to be a sports-based wrestling.
Yeah,
which is great. That's what I wanted, but nothing they've done since they've said that indicates. You know what I mean? Like, the refs are pretty bad in the NBA and the NFL sometimes, but no ref is as bad as a ref in an AEW tag match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ref basically just stands there and lets them do tag team moves for 20 minutes. Then when it's time, then he gets mad about someone being in the ring that's not supposed to be in the ring and tries to put them out, and then something happens. Right? It's like the most absurd thing ever.
Yeah.
Another thing is they're trying to do the win-loss records, which looks like a great idea on the outside, but in professional wrestling, win-loss ends up being 50-50. Pretty much, I would venture to guess most every, wrestler of merit, it pretty much has a 50-50 winning percentage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not only that, like wins, losses, like when you're a boxer, they've indicated wins, losses are very, very important. 50 and 1.
Right.
47 knockouts. They've made that to where in combat sports, That's a huge thing, right?
Right.
And wrestling, it doesn't tell the whole story. Like I could be 0-4, but did shit over here cost me 4 matches by tripping my foot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the story I'm trying to tell. So it's not the storytelling tool that they think it's. So I never would have done this.
Right.
The other issue was they started out travel. Now, every major wrestling company in the history of existence has started out taping television from a single location first.
Right.
So they can build an audience, then they can eventually figure out where that audience is, and then they can plan shows around that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? AEW starts out trying to sell 10,000 seat arenas and 5 10,000 seat arenas.
Right.
And they failed miserably. I mean, they were half full for most.
Yeah.
They're the only company that has benefited from the coronavirus because it made them stop traveling and start taping from a single location. Matter of fact, they released a report saying that they actually turned a profit the first month of the coronavirus because they stopped traveling.
Yeah.
You know? So how ass backwards is that?
Yeah. I think that was something that I mentioned to people that they should do. They should have essentially got a core following, a good base behind them, and then go out and hit every place that WWE doesn't hit.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with my theory is that when Vince McMahon in the early 80s was going around trying to steal everyone's talent, trying to steal all the territories, blah, blah, this, go national, if all the territories, instead of trying to compete with Vince McMahon, would have just backed up and fortified their own territories and worried about their own backyards,
mm-hmm.
I think most of them could have survived.
Yeah.
Especially with the right booking and the right things. I mean, they've been creating stars for 30 years, so then stealing top stars, I don't think was that big of an issue. You go to the drawing board and you find the next one.
Right.
Right? But they were so pissed off that this kid was coming in, Vince Senior's son was going to take it national and steal all our jobs, that they all tried to go national at some point, or try to combine forces to go national. Of course, that was a cluster itself.
Right.
But I feel like if they would have stepped back and fortified their own territories, maybe took a little bit of hit. Maybe instead of and Memphis ended up lasting the longest out of all of them because Jerry Jarrett wasn't going to try to compete with Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
So he just kept doing business and tried to keep Memphis going as long as he could. But he eventually sold and saw the writing on the wall. But Memphis ended up going to like 96 as a full-time territory.
Yeah.
So it's just guys there needs to be a better thought process of, why are you doing the things you're doing? You need to go back and look how the business survived for 100 years first.
Yeah. How do you think NWA is doing?
I don't like NWA. We were actually, we were here in Tennessee. We were NWA Mid-South.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Starbucks.
Yep.
And the whole him selling to Billy Corgan was one of the biggest mistakes in my opinion ever, because basically now we have a garage band singer and a television writer in charge of the 3 most important letters in the history of for the history of professional wrestling.
Right.
To me they present fake old school, and what I mean by that is they've got the studio, they've got the old looking ring, they've got the old looking belts, they've got all these things that are so nostalgic and whatever, right?
Right. And
then the belt piece, and it's all the same. It's the same silliness that everyone else is trying. But also, when the program first came out and everybody saw it, this is awesome. This is just like the old school. They loved it, and everyone was, raving about the NWA. No one had talked that much about the NWA in years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Corgan and Dave Lagana both come out and say, "Oh, we're not the throwback company. We're going to be very progressive. We're not the nostalgia company." They basically just shot themselves in the foot.
Right.
Right. And then a couple weeks after that, The Rock actually tweeted about how much, or it was Edge. It was Edge. Edge tweeted how much he loved the look of the new NWA product, blah, blah. And then they were all, "Thank you very much, Edge, blah, blah, blah." It's so hypocritical. It's so fake. You understand? Like, they hold absolutely no weight with me in professional wrestling. It's just
right.
Marks running wrestling company. And it's very sad because the NWA is the grandfather of every major promotion we have.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's essentially where it all started from, Yeah. I didn't look at it. I've never really looked at it like that. I mean, I did, but I didn't. I was just like, yeah, I like the way they present it, but then like you're right. Like it is just like every other thing. And
it's just none of them make sense. Like they've done, like I watched like maybe like the first 12 or 15 episodes or something like that, and like first you would think James Storm was a babyface, and then all of a sudden 2 episodes later he's a heel, and then 2 episodes after that he's babyface again, and it's like it was confusing. It was completely, like I said, it was an old school booking. So I actually messaged a friend of mine who works for him and asked him about it. He said, yeah, they actually told me, don't be babyface and don't be heel, be a tweener. And that is one of the most contrived terms in professional wrestling. There's nothing. Tweeners are only a tweener is only when you're actually in the middle of turning from one to the other.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
It's not a full-time term.
Oh yeah.
You understand? You can't be a tweener for 7 years.
Right.
You understand? You're either you need to be a babyface or a heel. And everybody's like, oh, Stone Cold was a tweener. No, Stone Cold was a babyface. He's probably the biggest babyface in the history of wrestling.
Yeah.
Yes, he did things that were anti-establishment. Yes, he had his own set of rules. But he still had a moral compass, and he was a babyface.
Right.
Right? So I hate the term tweener, but that's the term that they're using to all their guys. They don't want anybody to be heel or baby. They want them to kind of be this middle-of-the-road thing. And when you're middle of the road, that's exactly what you're going to be. You're going to be lukewarm. You're going to be middle of the road.
Oh, yeah.
No one's going to get over, and no one's going to have heat. Ergo, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. I remember I worked this company. I don't remember where the hell it was, but I was working a triple threat match. It was my first night in the company, and the booker told me, it was bad enough for me, working a triple threat in my first match there, because how triple threat matches go, like, they're not for being your first time in a company, like a triple threat match is not a type of match that you want to be in, because you can't really show what you're worth, because you're working with 2 other people and everybody's got to get, certain shit in. But anyways, the booker told me to be the tweener of the group because they had the heel and then they had the face. And in my head, I was like, damn, bro, like you're already cutting me off at the pass, like you're essentially fucking me before I'm even in your company, bro. Like in my head, that's what I was thinking. So he told me to be the tweener. So I come out the little, coming down to the ring, and in my head, I was just like, fuck this. I was like, fuck this. I'm not going to be a fucking tweener. I was like, I gotta make my stand here. So I just went fucking full heel. I took it upon, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but I just took it upon myself because I was just like, I'm here to make, I'm here to, make a statement, do my thing and possibly get more work. But I don't want you to, essentially, I don't want you to cut me off at the pass by being like, hey, bro, you're going to be the tweener here and just be played for a fool. And like, I ended up losing the match and everything, and that was cool. But like, everybody after that remembered who the hell I was, because I took that upon myself to be like, nah, like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I was never able to be a babyface in that company again. Like, after that, like, everybody freaking hated me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as a booker, you want people, like, I'm with you, though. Like, in triple threats, there should be 2 heels and 1 babyface.
Right.
Just because. But, anyway, I mean, I'm like that, too. If there's something, a heel to die on, if it's one of those things where, like, I'm not going to go out there and, diminish myself, and if he doesn't like what I do, then if he never wants to book me again, I completely understand, but this is the direction I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, I'll do what the booker asks me to do and things like that, unless it's something just completely outrageous.
Yeah. That was one of the things, like, in my mind at the time, I was just like, well, I'm new to this company, like, you got the big baby face of the company, you got the big heel of the company. There was really no point in putting me in the match, like, because they already had a story there. They just threw me in there to throw me in there. Right. And I was just like, well, like, I guess it's now or never, if I don't ever get booked here again, that'll be okay. But maybe if I don't get booked here again, maybe at least Jimmy 3 rows back is going to remember who the hell I am and be like, hey, whatever happened to that guy? Let me go check him out. Where's he at in his life? Where's he at in his career? So that was kind of my mindset as I was walking out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was kind of my mindset as I was walking out, and I stepped through that curtain, and I was just like, okay, bro, like it's now or never, Jason. You got to do something for you, man. and I think I ended up working there again. I'd worked there for, I would say, maybe a good 3, 4, maybe 6 months. And in that course of that 6 months, I ended up getting in that course of that 6 months, I ended up being in a team with Espinosa, and they ended up jumping me out, like kicking me out of the group, and they tried to turn me babyface, and I think it ended up turning, Brandon and them guys babyface because they were literally cheering them beating me up.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So I don't know if it worked out for them on that instance, but what was it like being the tag team partner of I mentioned it earlier, beautiful Bobby Eaton?
Man, it was a dream, man. I mean, Bobby Eaton was literally one of my favorite wrestlers, growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I was always, like I said, I loved all the baby faces. I hated all the heels, but at the same time, I was really drawn to all the seamless Southern heels,
mm-hmm.
like Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Bobby, Ted DiBiase, Flair.
Yeah.
That's what I was really like. I may not have liked him sometimes, but like if it was Arn Anderson versus Z-Man, like I watched that match because I knew it was going to be a good match. I didn't know necessarily that it was because of Arn Anderson,
mm-hmm.
right? But I knew it was going to be a good match, so I wanted to see it. So
right.
What happened with the Bobby thing was he was moving to the Arkansas area,
mm-hmm.
and he wanted to find a young guy to tag up with because he's getting older in age. This is probably going to be his last run, kind of stuff. And instead of him having to bear the burden of singles matches,
mm-hmm.
he can work tag matches, and the young guy can do a lot of the binging around that Bobby used to do, earlier in his career.
Yeah.
And we could all get bookings, and it was a win-win for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
So originally, Bobby was going to do a team with one kid in Arkansas and a team with me in Tennessee, kind of have two different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy in Arkansas had got some really bad advice.
Right.
And decided that he didn't want to do it. So I got both spots.
Ooh.
So we became Midnight Gold. It was me, Bobby Eaton, and Brian Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And we just traveled. We tagged up for 2 years. And I just got to travel with Bobby, and he became a really good friend, obviously. And
mm-hmm.
we had some really good matches, and it was a huge experience for me. That was one of the first things that I got to do where people said, "Well, who's this Greg Anthony guy?"
Right.
You know what I mean? It kind of put me on, like, Bobby's tagging with Greg Anthony. Who's Greg Anthony? You know what I mean? So it kind of got my name out there in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Bobby is as great as he is as a professional wrestler, and he's actually one of the greatest in-ring wrestlers of all time. Everything Bobby Eaton does is better than everyone else. The way he takes a post is better than everyone else. The way he takes a backdrop is better than most. The way he takes, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because everything he does seems to be better than the next guy.
Yeah.
And when as much as a great wrestler as he is, he's a better person. Like, literally, he'll give you the shirt off his back even if he doesn't have another shirt. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, one of my favorite stories about Bob. This is after we had tagged,
mm-hmm.
but he was working up a show in the Mid Atlantic area somewhere, and one of my buddies said that my buddy was fixing to go out to wrestle, but he couldn't find his T-shirt, his entrance shirt he usually wore to the ring.
Right.
So like he's over there looking around for his shirt. Bobby comes up and goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes, "I can't find my shirt." So him and Bobby kind of looked around for his shirt for a minute together. My buddy finally goes, forget it all. I'll get it when I come back. Goes out there, wrestles his 20, 30-minute match, whatever it is. He comes to the back, and Bobby Eaton's still looking for his shirt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what any guy would do that, let alone one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Right.
You know? So, Bobby, when we started tagging, you know, after a while, he really instilled a lot of confidence in me because, you know, it wasn't like he was having to call all the matches and do this. He really trusted me with a lot of it. And he agreed with a lot of my decisions. And even times that he would go, well, why are we doing this? I would explain why, my thought process on it. And he would look at me and go, okay, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, there was never a time when he went, no, that doesn't fucking make any sense, or no, we shouldn't do it like that, or anything. He listened to me and made my case, and when he realized what I was doing, he said, okay, that makes sense. And the biggest thing was the entire time that we tagged up, Bobby Eaton never let me take a pin. Every time that Midnight Gold was defeated, they pinned Bobby. And there were several promoters that wanted to pin me, and he flat out refused it. He said, no, we're beating me. We're not beating Greg.
Right.
Because he knew what this was. He knew I was helping him by carrying a fair share of the workload in the match.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
We were still able to work and do main events together.
Yeah.
And he knew that he was helping me by lending me, you know, the Bobby Eaton Midnight Express, you know, name.
Yeah. You know, I mean, he was essentially giving you the rub, you know, like, hey, you know, this is the guy right here, like, you know, and that's very, very respectful because, you know, you don't get that a lot with, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say a lot, but, you know, there is some old guys that wouldn't do that for another person.
Yeah, I've told that story for years, and I don't know of anybody else that would have done that. That would have took every pin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And emphatically take it too. Like, would get into arguments with bookers if he had to, that no, we're not beating Greg Anthony, we're beating me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was obviously a huge rub to me and what was going on.
What do you? I was just looking at some Bobby Eaton stuff just now. I pulled it up on my computer. What do you think of the very brief faction that he was in called the Dangerous Alliance with Paul E. Arn, Stunning Steve, Rick Rude, and Zbyszko?
Yeah,
the Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah, they're one of the most underrated factions ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everyone talks about the Horsemen, obviously, and everyone talks about the NWO. But the Dangerous Alliance, I mean, those guys could go.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean, they could easily, Rick Rude was like, you know, the figurehead of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, you had Arn and Bobby and Zbyszko, three just amazing workers. You know, and Steve Austin was the guy he was like the television champ kind of guy.
Yeah.
And like they were just all going out there. They'd be all over the card, and they would just be fucking having tear the house down matches. You know, they were going pretty strong when Bill Watts was booking for WCW, and Bill Watts, when he started WCW Saturday Night, the first like 6-8 months of WCW Saturday Night, every main event is a 2 out of 3 falls main event.
Mm-hmm.
Like old school, you know, back in the day, all world title matches were 2 out of 3 falls, right? Right. So like he went back really old school, and like every main event was 2 out of 3 falls. Mm-hmm. Usually, some member of the Dangerous Alliance was in the main event somehow, and they were all just amazing. Like the worst 2 out of 3 falls match that they had was Johnny B. Bad versus Scotty the Body, and it was still a really good match, you know. Yeah. But that was the worst of the bunch. But the Dangerous Alliance was amazing. I really enjoyed a lot of things they did.
Yeah. I was scrolling through pictures of Eaton just now, and I noticed that picture, and I was just like, oh, let me ask him about that, because like that was one of the groups back in the day. Whenever I was, you know, I grew up in the 90s, you know, so I remember them from watching WCW and whatnot, and I was just like, yeah, I want to get his thoughts on that real quick. But yeah, man. Anything else that you want to to get out or promote or talk about? Or you're a booker. You also book shows, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get back started. We usually, Pro Wrestling Mid-South here in Tennessee, we usually run 125 shows a year.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that for the last we've been in business for the last 6 years, but obviously with the coronavirus and things like that, we haven't had an event since March 21st.
Right.
And so we're itching to get back going, obviously. And we just provide a family friendly, event. We love being a part of the community. We love doing old school professional wrestling. No cussing, nothing vulgar. No out of the world violence or anything like that. Just good old school wrestling. And we've had weekly shows in Ripley, Tennessee, and Dyersburg, Tennessee, for a while now. So anyone that's in and around that, or they can check us out on Facebook, Twitter.
Do you? We'll ask you a couple more questions. Since we talked about a lot about presentation of shows and how they should look, or how we think that they should look and go. What is as somebody that's booked shows and run shows and stuff like that, what is a good proper way to book the show? Like a kind of like a I don't know man, I just essentially you coming from the business and everything like that, and you watching all of these other companies, what would you do? What are you doing different within your company that you run and stuff like that makes it more impressionable? If that makes sense.
The family friendly thing is one. Like most companies, especially in my area, there's way too much bad press about professional wrestling. When I was on traditional championship wrestling, which is was at one time was in 50 million homes,
right,
across the country, and I made a little bit of name of myself. This was after the Bobby Eaton thing, and we did CCW and things like that. And I could have took my name and I could have went across the country and got more bookings and got my name more out there like that. But I decided that I wanted to clean up the image of professional wrestling in my area.
Right.
So that's why we went with the family friendly thing, because a lot of companies have cussing and drinking and drugs in the locker room. And there's just people in charge that have no clue what they're. You understand? They run it like a clubhouse,
right,
where they can drink and have fun with their friends, rather than running it like an actual wrestling company.
Right.
And there's just no thought. It's just for something for them to play wrestler a couple times a week. It's not really them contributing to the business, so it can be around for years and years to come. So for us, like I said, we present a family-friendly show. We take a lot of care as far as our fans and giving them something wholesome that they can, like I said, they can take their kids to, or their grandparents to, or everyone can come as a family, and no one's going to be, upset about a wrestler spitting on them or saying something completely inappropriate to them,
right?
Anything like that. We're very professional, and we try to present wrestling in an old school way where you watch old school matches back in the day, and the babyface would make a comeback, and lo and behold, he would win, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? We don't go through all these things where we have these marathon shows that last 4 hours, and everyone kicks out of everything, including the Atom Bomb.
Right.
We do old school wrestling. We try to tell a story. We try to get you involved in love this guy, hate this guy. We do a lot of. That's something that I always loved about professional wrestling. I think that's what's made professional wrestling at its peak the most successful thing that it was. So we try to get back to the basics.
Right. Do you have any guys that's run through your company that you see real good potential in?
Yeah,
I'm kind of putting you on the spot to call some names out, but I'm sure some of them. It's essentially, like if your guys end up hearing this podcast or anything like that, maybe to make those guys work a little bit harder if you're calling out names for guys that are doing better than others.
Well, yeah, John Michael is a guy. Me and him actually grew up together.
Mm-hmm.
We started in the business together, but he was out of the business for 5 years. He blew his knee out, and he couldn't wrestle. But he was a part of our company behind the scenes for 5 years, and he eventually got worked out and got back to where he was actually able to get back in the ring. And he spent a year chasing Dale Wild. Dale Wild was our champion for over 2 years.
Right.
In today's age, Dale Wild was our champion for 2 years, and John Michael was able to end his title reign and become the unified heavyweight champion. So that he's obviously the focal head of our company.
Mm-hmm.
Another guys are like young guys like Thud Powell, who's only 19 years old but phenomenally talented. Been wrestling about 2 years. Same thing with Pee Wee Pitts, another young kid that's been wrestling 2 years. But these guys are the future of what we're doing, and they're only 19 years old, and they're. When I say that they're good, I mean they are immensely better than I was when I was 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And I can't wait to see them when they're 27.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then you got a tag team, the Ray Boys. They're the quintessential love to hate team.
You're right.
Like everybody hates them. They're from Lake County, which you don't know anything about Tennessee, but we hate everyone from Lake County, I think. That's what the deal is.
Yeah.
So, and then another guy he's in and out of our company. He's actually from the Maryland, West Virginia area, which is Jacob Edwin. And he's a phenomenal talent that spent many years in Pro Wrestling Mid-South and he moved down here from Maryland. He spent a couple years down here with us, and now he's back up in Maryland again. And he's doing some good things up that way too. So a lot of those guys, I look to big things from all.
Cool. And last question. You mentioned something, and the only reason I'm adding one more question on is because you dropped something that I've talked about a lot when it comes to pro wrestling. You mentioned that Dale was his name, right? Dale Wild. He was running with the belt, in particular your heavyweight belt, for 2 years. And this is a question that I'm going to try to sneak in with all wrestling related topics that people that I talk to, because I think it's a good one. Do you think that in today's day and age that belts should be a little bit more meaningful, in particularly the heavyweight belt? Like you have your I made the analogy with Bob Cook. I talked to Bob Cook a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
And I asked him, and I go, do you think that you obviously have your workhorse belts, which would be like your TV titles or your Intercontinental titles, or belts like that should and be able to change hands quite a bit and stuff like that. But then you should that one belt, which would be your heavyweight belt, which is your main belt. Do you think you should build it with a little bit more prestige and honor and more care instead of just passing it back and forth like a hot potato?
Yeah, that's one issue too. The issue itself too is there's too many belts. There's too many champions.
Yeah.
For the heavyweight title to mean something, it has to not only be the most prestigious title of the bunch, but it doesn't need to be one of 20.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
WWE, I think I counted it one day. It was like 19 champions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was something ridiculous. I think I got it dwindled down to like 9.
Right.
Or something. But you need to have one heavyweight champion.
Right.
One WWE champion. Raw and SmackDown, you can have Intercontinental, and you can have United States title.
Mm-hmm.
I think there should be one set of tag champs for both those shows. Both those shows too.
Yeah.
I also think that NXT, there should be one NXT champion.
Mm-hmm.
I think there should be instead of the NXT UK champion, I think they should bring back the European title.
Yeah.
I think that having NXT champions and NXT tag champions, or NXT tag champions and NXT UK tag champions is ridiculous too.
Yeah.
So, just have one set of NXT tag champions. It's just stuff like that. But to your point, yes, it needs to be this is the belt that everyone should want to be,
right?
But it seems like now you pretty much know your standing in the company if you don't have a title at all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like there's so many titles. Why can't I be one of these guys?
Right.
But like in our company, we have the unified heavyweight title, and we have the mainly is on Saturday nights. Then on Friday nights we have what is called the Legends Alliance heavyweight title. Then we have the Southern Junior heavyweight title, which is like our cruiserweight title,
right?
Obviously, and then we have tag champions,
right?
So I mean, and even that seems like too many sometimes. But like I said, we run 125 shows a year, so we're able to kind of spread it out,
right?
So like I can't imagine having 20 and trying to book all that and stuff like that. Because booking champions and how you book them and how you book challengers up into when they challenge is a very important part of professional wrestling.
Right.
And, it just seems like completely mass produced. Another issue, and this may just bother me, and you tell me what you think, but I hate that all the titles look exactly alike now.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I've hated that too.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it just being, because I don't know what the titles are, to be honest. I don't know. Like, at one time, the Universal title was red and it was on Raw, so that made sense. And
yeah.
The WWE title was on SmackDown and it was blue, but then they switched, I think, and they changed the colors of them, so I'm not sure which one's which anymore.
Right, yeah. And that goes back to the whole arc of the question is, of belts being prestigious. And like back in the day, you knew when you seen that NWA Heavyweight Championship, you knew what that meant. When you came into an area and you seen a guy holding, say, like a TV title or something like that, you knew what that title meant. And
I mean, have we had a title win that was that significant in recent memory? I mean, Kofi won. But that wasn't because he was black, not necessarily because he won the title, right? And then even that was kind of contrived. I mean, we had like when Stone Cold Steve Austin won the title, it was a huge thing. Like finally, you know what I mean? The hottest guy in the company, has the title. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
I don't know if we had a moment like that in 10, 15 years.
No, yeah, and that's one of the things. That's one of my biggest gripes about pro wrestling as a whole today is the fans the fans and the workers alike just seem to treat belts like hot potatoes. Like in particular, like I talk a lot about the heavyweight belt because that's the figurehead of the company. That's the guy. Everybody should be working to put asses in seats, but if you get down to the brass tacks of it, your heavyweight champ is the guy, you're the guy that essentially, is the backbone of the company, and more than likely is the guy that most people come to see. So it needs to have a little bit of prestige behind it, and it's also, to me, another thing that bothers me about it is, like in particular, and you see WWE now, there's probably at least I could count on maybe about 10, 15 guys in the company who's been 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 time champions. And it just like, to me, it diminishes the belt as a whole, because like, if you look back through the history of, the championships when it started, like back when it started with Hackenschmidt and stuff like that, and the way that the lineage and the history of that championship belt that spawned all of these other championship belts, the care and prestige is no longer there. And I think that's, to me, is one of the big things that's diminished wrestling as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, just goes back to everything. Less is more.
Yeah.
I used to be able to, like I said, to name every WWE champion up until probably 2002, 2003, probably.
Yeah.
And now I wouldn't even know where to begin. And then you get into like intercontinental titles and tag titles and things like that. I mean, it's just a big mess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One thing that I can remember, the last time I can remember a long run with a title was I believe it was the Summer of Punk, where Punk I think he ended up running, what was it, like close to like
434.
Yeah, 434 days, and that's been the longest title run in WWE over the last, I would say, almost 20 years now.
Yeah, I mean, since Hogan, it was the longest one since Hogan, because Hogan held it for like 4 years.
Yeah.
So it was the longest one since then. The reason I remember that it was 434 was because, ironically, he held the title 434 days, and I was ranked 434 in the PWI 500 that same year, which was ironic. I tried to tease a match between us, but no one was biting. So.
Hey man, you got to try to get yourself over, right, man?
I was trying to get that money match. So.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap this show up. If you got anything that you want to promote social media wise, I don't know if you got a YouTube channel. Mid-South's got their own YouTube channel, or if you got anything like that, now's the time to throw that out there.
Yeah, just if you want to follow me on Facebook, it's just, the Golden Boy Greg Anthony. Same thing with Pro Wrestling Mid-South, Pro Wrestling Mid-South. On Twitter, I'm at Golden Boy Greg. On Instagram, I'm the Golden Boy Greg Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
So just follow us and follow me, and let's keep wrestling alive and well.
Yep. And one thing, this is something that I've started doing with everybody. I'm really big on motivational and inspiration to try to make people better. Not just in professional wrestling, but in life and whatnot. Give me, and we're gonna end it with you're gonna take us home, baby. Give me something that could be inspirational in the realm of wrestling, life, or anything like that. That something that Greg, the Golden Boy Greg Anthony, lives by. What is that thing that drives you to get up and do what you do in your life? Give that little bit of inspiration and life lesson to close us out.
Well, I mean, I'm 39 years old, but I'm actually a heart patient too. I had a major heart surgery 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago to the day. Actually, it'll be 3 years on the 20th. So that'll be my heart anniversary. And in that time, I felt the power of prayer. So I'm actually a very devout Christian guy that believes in God and Jesus and all that. And I say, worry about nothing but pray about everything. And I know that's hard to do sometimes, and I fail doing that myself. But I try every day. An alarm goes off on my phone every day at noon to pray, and I try to take a moment and thank Him for allowing me to be alive another day.
Mm-hmm.
Because with my heart condition, I actually should have died in my 20s.
Right.
But because I had a passion for professional wrestling, because I had a passion for basketball too, because I played basketball through school, I was able to actually work my heart to where my heart itself was strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a testimony to what God's plan was for me.
Right.
My favorite quote isn't actually a Bible quote, but it's something that I live by. And if one day maybe I'll get this tattoo, maybe one day I won't, I don't know. But the thing that I live by the most is pain is temporary, but glory lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that all the pain that I went through, all the pain that you go through, all of it is eventually, it's all temporary. And that if you can touch people's lives and show them how much you love them or how much passion you have for certain things, then your glory will last forever. I think long after I'm gone, people will hopefully speak my name in the world of professional wrestling and my kids and my family and things like that about the things that I was fortunate enough to do. So pain is temporary, but glory lasts forever.
And with that being said, you guys, that's all I have for you. Like I always say to end the show, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. I thank you guys for stopping by. And I love you guys, and I thank you guys for everything that you guys give me. And no matter what you guys do in your life, wake up every morning and go out and fight for what you want in your life. That's all I can ever ask for you guys. I love you guys. I respect you guys, and I appreciate you guys. Thumbs down, crew. We here, baby. Much love, everybody. Peace out.